My name is Stephen Paterson. I'm a PhD student at St. Mary's University, and I study how non-native earthworms are spreading into Canada's boreal forest and what this means for our northern ecosystems. Nobody sets out in life planning to become an earthworm biologist. I first became interested in earthworms when I kept accidentally finding them while doing research in really remote parts of the boreal forest in northern Saskatchewan. And they intrigued me because they're not supposed to be there. North American earthworms were almost entirely wiped out in what's now Canada and the northern United States during the last ice age, and these soils have been naturally earthworm-free ever since. Likely every earthworm you've ever seen in Canada is a species introduced from Europe or from Asia. So I became fascinated with understanding where these worms were, how they got there, and where they're spreading to. And beyond just my own curiosity, those questions are really important for the management and conservation of our northern ecosystems. This is because earthworms are what we call ecosystem engineers. They physically change the soil and they can alter how an ecosystem works. So they can do really good things in agriculture or in gardens. Unfortunately, when they get into Canadian forests, they, for the most part, have negative impacts on biodiversity and carbon storage. So we know that earthworms are driving big changes in our forests. The problem is we have very little idea of where they are, what their large-scale distributions look like. Without that information, we can't quantify their large-scale impact, we can't assess their potential future impacts, and we can't effectively manage their spread. Earthworms are starting to spread further and further north in the boreal zone, and they're starting to show up as far north as the Yukon now. It's really important to understand these patterns of spread in order to determine if management interventions are necessary. So this past summer, we spent 3 months conducting the first systematic survey of earthworms in the Yukon to figure out how they're introduced and predict where they might spread. What we found was that earthworms in the Yukon are really common in cities, especially around Whitehorse, but unlike other parts of Canada, they have not yet colonized more remote forests. I'm planning to collect more data in the Yukon this upcoming summer to understand how these introduced species may continue to spread and whether they can be expected to affect biodiversity and carbon storage in these northern forests. Furthermore, this work will help to identify what actions, if any, should be taken to limit their spread. I would like to thank the Wildlife Conservation Society and the Weston Family Foundation for their generous support. It was very important to the success of this project. The awarded funds allowed us to collect more data and spend more time in the north engaging with communities, and the WCS staff provided practical advice on everything from field logistics and GIS data sets to building relationships with First Nation communities.